The Nintendo Switch has been out for a little bit over a year now, and throughout this time, I've been waiting for the right moment to pick one up. I've owned every Nintendo console, and I figured, it's just a matter of time for me to pick up the Switch. I didn't pick it up at launch because I had pre-ordered Breath of the Wild for the Wii U, and so without Breath of the Wild, there was no compelling reason to purchase this console. But I thought in the coming year there would be a reason that Nintendo and some key third-party developers would put out some titles that would interest me. And it hasn't happened. Yet, throughout this year, on an almost monthly basis, all of the video gaming personalities here on YouTube whom I follow have put out videos praising this console as if it's, the next coming of the SNES. Videos like the top 10 Switch games under $20 or the top 5 games on the eShop. It almost seems like every retro personality has jumped on the bandwagon, almost as if there was a little guerrilla marketing going on by Nintendo. And yet, every time I come back to the question, should I pick up the Switch, and I look at the games list, and I look at the upcoming releases, I can't find a compelling reason to purchase this console. And I think if you look at it, just look at the games, look at the releases, you'll find that this is one of the more anemic console releases that we've had. So my criterion here, and let me be clear, is that I need 3 unique games to play for any console before I purchase it. 3 games that I can't get anywhere else, and 3 games that show the potential or the actual innovation of the system. So let's look at those games. Original games for the Nintendo Switch. You have Mario Odyssey, which I will admit is the type of game for me. I would love to play this game, but I can't just have Mario Odyssey. I need to have something else. Super Bomberman R, another game that kind of reminds me of the good old days, but was expensive on launch, and I've heard that it's not all that new, all that different from the old Bomberman on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox. Now you have games like 1-2 Switch and ARMS, so those are new IP, and yet 1-2 Switch just seemed like a boring gimmick, and ARMS is not my kind of thing. If you want to release Punch-Out, release Punch-Out. ARMS to me just didn't look all that interesting. You have Splatoon 2, and I have heard that is pretty similar to Splatoon on the Wii U, but I'm not a multiplayer shooter person, so that went out the window for me. You have Rabbids, Kirby, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. There's nothing there. That is a very, very weak lineup of original games. Now, maybe I'm missing something. I'm doing this from memory. I haven't mentioned Breath of the Wild because that game was really developed for the Wii U and was fine for that console, even though the Switch version is better. But when you move outside of those games, weak as they are, and you look at the Nintendo Switch lineup, you'll find nothing other than games that have appeared on all sorts of other consoles, games that are cheaper and better for those other consoles. What am I talking about? Well, you have indie games, indie games that you can get on things like Steam, PlayStation Store, I Am Setsuna, Gunvolt, Retro City Rampage, the Batman Telltale games, Banner Saga, Rime, Redout I purchased for $10 this weekend on Steam. I see on GameStop here that it is a Switch pre-order for $40. Then you go on, you have re-release games, games that, again, are on other consoles and are better on other consoles. Doom, Skyrim, the Ultra Street Fighter 2 compilation, which I think came out in 2008, the Street Fighter remix thing for the PlayStation and Xbox 360 back then, Puyo Puyo Tetris, NBA and FIFA 2K18, the Warriors, Dynasty Warriors series, Bayonetta, Just Dance, things like that. Again, if you only had a Switch, great, those games are there for you, but I think a lot of us in the gaming community have picked up one or more of those titles on other consoles. And then you have Wii U remakes. And look, a Wii U remake, how necessary is that? The Wii U ran these games really well in HD. It wasn't like going from the Wii to the Wii U, but Mario Kart, Hyrule Warriors, Lego City Undercover, Captain Toad, and again, I'm including Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild there. Uh, that's not, I own all of those games. So there's no reason for me to buy them on the console other than, okay, they're going to be portable, but, I don't ride the bus or the train, and as an adult, I don't really feel the need to take my handheld consoles out of the house, so I just wind up playing them in bed, and guess what? I could do that with the Wii U. So if you compare it, let's look at the Wii U's first year. What did it have? Well, it had New Super Mario Bros. U. It had Super Luigi U. In that year, launch titles, Nintendo Land, better launch title in my opinion than 1-2 Switch, or at least tech demo launch title. It had that tank game, it had Lego City, Pikmin 3 in that year, Wii Party U, and then it finished out the year, or at least that year and a half, I should say, with Super Mario 3D World and Wonderful 101. Not the best lineup in the world, certainly, but a lot more innovative and fresh in its time than I think the Nintendo Switch is. And if you look at the upcoming releases, finally the games are starting to trickle out. At least for my taste, you're going to have the new Pokemon game, which I've said I enjoy Pokemon for what it is. You have Octopath Traveler, which looks interesting, maybe a Bravely Default kind of a game. But beyond that, I am not seeing much. Again, new, interesting, unique properties for this console. And I think if you get past the hype, if you get past the rampant marketing that Nintendo has done for this console, what you have is an overpriced Android tablet with a lot of remakes, re-releases, and shovelware. And the idea that somehow this is a new and amazing and innovative console just doesn't hold water. It's a lie. And it's also an example of this herd mentality that exists online, where you get a product in the hands of a couple influencers, throw them a few codes, and all of a sudden the system is, again, the greatest system since the SNES. Look, I think the Switch has potential. I want it to do well, but I think the reality is this is a rather cynical effort on the part of Nintendo. The Wii U was not a success, and the Switch seems to be really what the Wii U should have been, but brought to market in a rather conservative manner. It's being buoyed by cheap-to-port indie titles, by remakes, remasters, things that don't take a lot of effort, I think in the hope that it builds an install base, that with the right marketing strategy and the low-hanging fruit of development, you can get an install base there to innovate in the future. I'm not saying it's a bad strategy, it's obviously working, but I think this falls short of the high watermark that is Nintendo. It feels like it's not living up to those high standards that Nintendo has established over the years. And until it turns itself around, until we see that innovation that I think we've all hoped for, I, for one, am not going to touch this thing.